Here's the interior view of my Mazda showing the heater box with the glove compartment removed, which is very easy to remove. There's the main heater box just above the passenger's feet. There you can see a shiny black cable which is part of the loom which runs above the box. That has to be pushed up out of the way to gain access to the servo motor. Space is very restricted. That's the airbag connector, which I undid. Not really necessary, in fact. There's enough slack cable to move the loom without undoing that. That's the endoscope. There's the locking key that helps to hold the airbag connector in place. Quite a complicated, fiddly connector. I don't recommend undoing that, and certainly disconnect the battery before you go near it. Here's one of the brackets holding the heater box, which is welded to a steel tube that runs across the width of the body. I cut that away with an angle grinder to get access to the servo motor. That's where I cut it. There's the endoscope still in position so that I could see the screw that's hidden. I undid two brackets that support the airbag box, and again they're bolted to the steel tube, which you can see in the centre of the picture there, which runs across the body and holds everything together. Brackets in two parts. The top part also supports the dash with a small screw there. There's another connector which takes wires to the servo motor. This clip attaches to the top of the heater box, and the bottom of the clip, the peg you can see sticking out there, goes through a hole. When you lever it out, put the screwdriver in the slot underneath and push it up. Don't lever it from the top, it'll break off. This is a second-hand heater box that I bought on eBay. It's not the one from my car. I bought it so I could find out how the thing worked and experiment. That's the servo motor I'm removing there, which drives the mixer door with the peg drive, the white plastic bit. There down in the hole is the drive to the door. There are the pipes from the cooling system going to the heater matrix. That's a seal to the firewall, the front bulkhead of the car. And there are the tubes which poke through and connect with hoses to the heating system. That's the air intake door, which has a flap to go from external air to recirculation. Here I'm lifting off the complete top. There's the heater matrix, which sits behind the mixer door. There's the mixer door. There's the blower motor. And you can see the cooling fins on the heater rheostat in the airstream from the blower. There's the mixer door and the baffle. There's nothing in that space. The evaporator from the air comet, if it's fitted, goes in there. And here you can see the mixer door moving to let air go through the matrix for warm air, or bypass the matrix for cold air, or in between the two. Walking round now to the front of the heater box, there you can see the baffle. Just takes out, and there's the mixer door, driven by two sprockets on a drive shaft, a square drive shaft. And my clothes peg ended up down in the bottom left-hand corner in the track, jamming the door solid. That's the servo motor in position, which of course sits on top of the top cover and drives the mixer door when it's working properly. This is a test hole I cut in the scrap heater box so that I could see exactly where would be the best place to cut it. There's the mixer door, you can see through the hole, and the matrix would be on the left. So that would give cold air in that position, and that would give warm air. That's the bottom view of the hole. Make sure that you don't go past that recess and cut at the same angle as the edge of that moulded recess to avoid cutting into the heater matrix. You don't want to do that. There's the two screws that hold the servo motor on, which are highly inaccessible, especially the back one. I cut this plastic guard away really low down using a hacksaw blade, and I cut that bracket off as well. If you don't do that, you simply can't gain access to the servo motor. I built this special offset remote screwdriver with two pulley sprockets and a tough belt, and it worked really well. Given how restricted the space is, it was the only way I could think of to undo the screws, and I used an endoscope on my laptop to see the far screw. Impossible to see it by direct sight. There was a lot of wadding on top of the heater, and I couldn't get my screwdriver in, so I made that hook tool with a sharp edge to cut the wadding away. So there's my special tool. Two wedges to hold the loom out of the way, and the dreaded offending clothes peg. Ooh. I bought a small offset ratchet screwdriver on eBay, and I think you might be able to use that if it was suitably modified, and that would save making the rather complicated offset screwdriver I made. You'd have to extend it and probably put some sort of hinge on so it could turn in a confined space. I used an endoscope to see the far distant screw. Poked it in as best I could to get a view, and initially, to find out where the clothes peg was in the first instance, I took the blower motor out and used it through that aperture. I used some little strips of brass shim to hold the little latches apart so I could dismantle the servo motor. There are 5 of them altogether. Once you've released the latches, it simply comes apart. There you can see the gear train. See the hole on the large output gear? That's in the correct position. But when I took mine apart, it had rotated round to the other side because the gears had been slipping because the door was jammed. That's the output shaft which drives the mixer door. I'm taking the compound gear train apart here. Roughly, it has got a gear reduction of some 2,300 to 1, so a massive increase in torque to move the mixer door. Quite a lot of torque from such a small electric motor. There you can see the wipers and the carbon track potentiometer on the printed circuit board. Those wipers must go in at the top in the center position so that it moves round to the left and round to the right. It never makes a complete rotation. And the potentiometer positions it according to the position of the control knob on the fascia. There's the worm and wheel. You can't really see it very well there. Those are the 3 pins on the connector, live, neutral, and the PWM signal wire, which positions the output shaft. You can see how fragile those latches are. So you must make sure the hole is on the left when you reassemble it. And then it just pops together. It's really held together by the screws that attach it to the top of the heater box. although I don't think it would come apart. Here's the endoscope view of my special offset screwdriver in the screw head on the back of the servo, and you can see the insulation there, which got in the way at times. This is a hook I made from a bit of thin wire to hold onto the screw so I didn't lose it. Again, endoscope picture. And I made this simple wooden gauge to position the mixer door dead central. Again, I was able to use the second-hand heater box that I'd got to set that up. That is the correct size. Here's the car with the servo motor put back in. So I've just reconnected the battery so I can test the servo and see the door move before I glue the cutaway piece back on. Here's the hole I cut in the heater box in the car to extract the clothes peg. I had to use a sticky pad on the end of my finger to reach it and get it out, but it was pretty easy. And I used a Dremel with a small circular saw on the end to cut it as neatly as I could. There's the piece I cut away, which I kept to glue back in after I'd tested it. Here I'm testing the servo to make sure that the mixer door moves when I rotate the knob. Behind the knob there's a potentiometer similar to the one in the servo, and the voltage across the potentiometer behind the knob is used to create a signal sent down that third wire, a PWM signal, and the circuits in the servo compare the position of the wiper on the potentiometer in the servo to the position of the wiper on the knob, and move the motor to position the door so it's the same as the setting. Well, that's working really well. Plenty of heat coming through there. Here are all the parts that I didn't have to dismantle, just the glove compartment. Well, I hope my little video has been of some use, and thanks for watching.